Hey guys, it's your girl Kizzy Rock, and yes, Kizzy Rock is my birth given name. Happy Monday morning, guys. I want to say hey to all my subscribers, new as well as season. Got a word for you. Tap in. Happy Monday morning, guys. So I hope you guys caught up on your rest. I surely did. Right. So we were chatting on, I think it was Friday, we were chatting on so many of us felt as if God is calling us to, God called us to rest this past weekend. A lot of people were feeling very drained in their spirits. Some people say they even took off work. Some just say they just didn't have that energy to get anything done, whatever. So what we were chatting about is that there's a fight that was going on in this spiritual realm. And this can be in the form of the enemy is trying to hold you back from the blessings, hold you up from the blessings. This can be in the sense of I'm trying to put in the words what I'm feeling. It'll come to me. But anyway, it's almost as if God says, you rest because you've already done everything I asked or required of you. So you're just really in a posture to be expecting. So I'm handling the things now that you can't handle. The things that you can't handle. Right? Because we know we like to try to get in there and do what only God can do. But that's what God is doing now. And that can be so many different things. But before I go into that, I want to speak really quickly while it's in my spirit. I was speaking to someone, emailing with someone this past weekend. Yes, I was resting, but this one, it just kept pinging on my spirit. So I knew God needed me to respond to this email. But be very careful if you're one of these individuals who you're still in that posture of waiting, right? You're still in your process. You might be in the very beginning, right? The middle, the thick of the stuff, or just whatever. If you're waiting on God, be very, very, all caps, very careful that the enemy will not get you to the point that you're disrespecting God because you're tired or you're frustrated. Listen, it's one thing to have a side eye, because let me just tell you, whoa, let me just tell you, I've already had a couple of side eyes, right? Not recently, but in the past, right? I've had a couple of side eyes, but I wouldn't dare say anything, in regards to being disrespectful. Listen, I think a lot of people were conditioned to think like, God is all such and such and this and that. And God is love, right? God is love. God is patient. He's kind, but he's not going to play with you either, right? But at the same time, if you're having a moment where you're frustrated because, I don't know, a familiar spirit already came up in there and gave you a certain day, a certain date, or you really, 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 really felt like you heard from God on a particular thing, and then that thing didn't happen when you thought it should, and before you know it, you get to the point where you throw your hands up and you start like having this tantrum. Fine, we're human. I have them all the time, but you you got to be careful certain things that you speak, right? God already knew what you're feeling anyway, right? So he's going to let you have your moment because he's not moved by your emotions, because he already he knows what's coming. So he knows that you'll get over this hissy fit, and then tomorrow you'll be back on the path because he's going to keep dropping in your spirit. You can't get away from it. So you can have this hissy fit today, right? But I'm going to let you have that because I already know by tomorrow or the next day, I'm going to drop something back in your spirit again. And the thing that you said you're going to walk away from, you'll be right back there again because I'm not going to allow it to leave your spirit. But when you have those moments, and my God, you will along the journey that you feel like either it is just taking too long, you feel like you heard God one way and it just wasn't the other, God didn't answer the call as quick as you thought, God didn't give you the revelation that you thought, like, you're going to have those. Trust me when I tell you, and that's coming from a visionary. You're going to miss it sometimes, right? The promise still is, but remember, God don't give you the details. So you got this whole blueprint figured out of how it's supposed to happen, when it's going to happen. You're listening to 30 different people and they're giving you all the wrong prophecy, like foolishness. And so when you get to the point that that thing doesn't happen, then you're mad with God instead of being mad with yourself that you're moving ahead of God. So again, we're human. You be frustrated, right? Have that side eye, but just keep it in your head. He knows, but be very, very careful what you speak out your mouth. It is literally one of the trick of the enemies to get you so frustrated with God that you turn your back on God, and God was never even the problem. I wanted to share that just in case, because I know some people may be at that point now where it could be the very beginning of the journey for you, and nothing is making sense, and everything you thought you heard God say relocate, you relocated and ain't nothing happening, right? And so now you're frustrated, like, I just knew I heard from God. Well, maybe you did. Maybe you did. He just said relocate. He didn't tell you everything that would happen the second you get there. Let me tell you, God may call you to relocate, and you may be there a whole year before you even start to see certain things manifest or certain fruits. Sometimes God got to get you in that foundation, right? So if He's called you somewhere, there's a reason why He called you there earlier. You may just be there to scope out the environment. You may just be there to get your downloads on what He's going to be calling you to do within that place. You may just be there so He can give you insight on certain areas. This is why when you go certain places, you see certain things that you get insight on. Just don't let that thing fall to the wayside. I was telling someone that this past weekend who had a dream about something, and I was telling her, when you get certain dreams that don't make sense, make sure you jot these dreams down, right? Same things with your downloads. Jot them down, because at some point God will nudge you and tell you to go back and look at that journal or at that vision board or whatever you're doing, and it's going to be a whole story at some point. It's going to all add up. But what's so confusing is that God gives us bits and pieces at a time. He has to. If God showed you the whole picture, you're bouncing. You ain't got time for that. Right? So He's going to show you bits and pieces of things. And because you're wanting to see that, this was not the way my message was going to go this morning. So somebody is side-eyeing God, honey. But you better get it together. You better get it together real quick, honey. Real quick, honey. I remember I had one of those moments probably like 9 months ago. And you couldn't tell me I didn't hear a certain thing at a certain time, right? Again, it still is. The thing still is, but the details of it. So you can tell, honey, you talking about hissy fit. Listen, I'm talking to myself, right? Because I ain't crazy enough to speak out loud. I'm thinking to myself, listen, please don't bother me. Do not bother me about this thing again. Like, seriously, leave me alone. Why in the world do you keep, like, I'm thinking this thing all in my head, right? Honey, I closed the book on that thing. Seriously. I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to see it. I'm not going there. I don't want to smell it. Leave me alone. And I was serious, right? I put an exclamation mark behind, seriously, leave me alone, right? And I was serious. I mean what I say, and I say what I mean, period, right? Honey, it had been 48 hours. 48 hours to download right back in your spirit. You ain't going nowhere. This is also why your patience. Now, some of you guys are already blessed with the gift of patience. Honey, let me just tell you, God have blessed your girl with a lot of gifts, but He skipped your girl on that one, right? But God will truly, if you're a person and patience is not your strong point, you will learn patience on this journey. Trust me when I tell you. So I just want to say that. Please be very careful, because Satan will sit there and have you saying things and you don't even realize you're cursing your own self. Please be very, very careful about the things that you allow to come out of your ear, out of your mouth when you are frustrated at a certain point in the journey. Again, you will be frustrated, but just be careful what you speak. But back to what I was saying, what I originally was leading towards, I think, but hey, who am I, right? See, here's the thing, my chosen ones. Many of you, if not all of you, because I don't say all or anything, you answered the call. You answered the call. See, let's just say your great grandma, your great grandma. I know for me it was in my opinion, my spirit, my grandma, but it could have been her mom. I don't know. Could have started with her mom, but I know as far as me, there was always a connection with my grandma. And I remember one time not right before she transitioned, but she had lost her legs prior to transitioning to illness. And I got a vision in my head not long ago, maybe like a year or so ago, that I remember being in her room at one point when she had lost her legs, and she was just basically saying that, well, she was crying because I said, what's wrong? And she said, I don't have any legs. But I forgot what it's called. It's not to the forefront of my head right now. When someone loses a limb, there'll be times that they feel like the limb is still there, but when they look down or look at the arm or the leg, whatever, and it's not there, like So she was having one of those moments. And so I just remember that God never allowed me to that vision to leave my head. But recently, I had this vision of when I was in that room, the legs that she thought she had lost, it was like she gave me her legs, like to take the torch and keep it moving. See, a lot of even if you were raised from like a foster parent or something like that, those praying grandparents, even your granddads, for some of my guys, some of you guys, you answered the call that you will probably be the first one in your family who's going to really, really break this cycle to be faithful to your wife. When you've known everybody in the family, your uncles, your granddad, your great granddad, everybody had 37 children on the streets that they lived on from other people, outside kids. 37. Well, maybe 37. But you feel that there's something in your spirit that God is saying, okay, this ain't what you're going to do, right? You're going to do it different. But don't get it twisted. It's still a struggle within your flesh, right? It's still a struggle because it's your default setting. But there's something in your spirit that says you have to do it different. You answered the call, unless you're rejecting it, and that's what happens. So when you get people who up in their feelings about, oh, who do you think you are? You said you're calling. Listen, I answered, right? So it could have went from your whole great grandmama, but then this person felt like they got tapped for the call and they just didn't answer, right? You could have a whole auntie that should have answered but didn't answer, right? And then somehow it skipped to you, but you answered, and now you're here in the war zone. You're in the whole war zone because you answered the call. And don't get it twisted. This is why you are blessed the way you are as well. So you got your struggles, but you're also blessed, right? You answered the call. So in saying that you answered the call, when God is, like this past weekend, we spoke about God fighting things and the things that we can't handle in the spiritual realm. Listen, why do you think it's so heavy? Because it really ain't about you. You answered the call. So God got you processed along the way, right? You're good. You ain't perfect. You ain't that cute, boo. You're good, right? So why is it still this heaviness? Why is it? Because you answered the call. So all of you're standing for everybody. You're standing for your siblings. You're standing for your mama and your father if they're still here. You're standing for your children. You're standing for your nieces and your nephews. You're standing for the generations coming behind you. Listen, why do you think it's so heavy if God already processed you? It makes no sense. It makes no logical sense. You've already been processed for how many years, and now all of a sudden you're still being attacked. Satan don't even have you anymore. He don't have you anymore. You're good. So why are you still facing demonic attacks? Why are you still facing this heaviness when there is a spiritual battle? You are standing for people who have addictions. You are standing for people who can't break soul ties and narcissist abuse on their own. You're standing for some family members that have health issues. You're standing you're standing for flesh. You're standing for everything. You answered the call. And no, you can't turn back. No, you can't turn back. You answered the call. So that's why it's heavy. This is why in certain seasons when you feel like there's a spiritual war, let it be, again, what we spoke about this past weekend about, it's nothing for this ain't your fight. God is handling this. But then there's other times where it's your fight, right? You got to fast. You got to war in the spirit. You got to do this. You got to do that. This is why you will also feel during certain times, those times is even maybe this weekend, some of you may have experienced certain things came back up. The narcissist is now contacting you again. That ex who was a whole witch, right, or a warlock, they're trying to contact you again. All the addictions are starting to creep up again, right? You feel all of these things is coming back, like you want to regurgitate them, but this really isn't your stuff. You've already mastered. Not to say that you still can't. You won't have to be on point, right, to make sure you keep these things under lock and key, but you've mastered these things. So why in the world are all these different spirits rising back up again? Because it's for other people. It's for other people. So when you get that frustration, let's say God have you standing for a person that can have a whole drug problem. I don't know, meth, pills, heroin, or whatever. Just a drug, alcoholism, a whole addiction issue. And again, don't be judgmental, folks, because you're sitting here judging this person and you sitting here with a whole bucket of ice cream every night because you have a sweet addiction, right? Let's be gentle. Let's be kind, right? But God... Well, I just saw somebody in front of a TV with a whole, what do you call the ice cream? Remember, it was like a whole bucket. Well, I don't eat ice cream, but not like that. I like sorbet, but like a whole bucket of ice cream. What was it called when it had like the 3 different flavors? It was like chocolate, vanilla, and strawberry. When we were like children, like we always had it at the birthday parties. But I literally just had this vision pop up in my head with somebody with a whole, literally not a bowl, scooping it, but the whole bucket sitting in front of the TV, eating out of it. But anyway, so the frustration that you feel, right? Because if you've ever been around somebody who have a drug problem, and thank God that's not my, that's not something I've dealt with in my family and things like that, or even like close friends. Well, I know a couple of people, but it's not in my family, but like people. But it's not anything. Well, I lie. I'm gonna take that back because I do know one where that addiction is very heavy, meaning it's like, But anyway, I pray for her all the times behind the scenes. But I ignore her behind too. As a matter of fact, I'm ignoring her now. If you're listening, that's why I'm returning your call. Don't harass my nerves. Don't harass my nerves. Not today, right? But anyway, if you've ever been around a person, and some of you may have this in your family, who deals with drug or alcohol addiction, it's a very, very frustrating thing for both parties. For you, it's frustrating because you're trying to make them go to rehab. You're trying to make them understand how they're risking their lives. You're trying to make them this and make them that. And on the flip side, they're frustrated because you don't even understand how tough this battle is. If it was that easy, wouldn't I put it down? I've already lost my job. I've already lost my wife. I've already lost my husband. I lost my kids. So if common sense should tell you, if it's that easy, I would just lay it down. But this is a demonic spirit. This is a spiritual thing. And every time I put it down, it's haunting me. I'm craving it. The same way you crave that narc. The same way you crave that person when you're in the soul tie. But you can't get out of the soul tie. But you're judging me because I have a different type of a demon that I'm fighting with here. So the point is, it's frustrating on both people's part, right? So, all right. So now that person is maybe either no longer in your life, or they is, but God have you standing for them in prayer. So God have called you on a fast. God have called you, whatever your downloads is, right? To stand for this person. So why do you think you're frustrated? You catch that? So that frustration that you're feeling in the spiritual realm, you're feeling like nothing is happening and nothing is this and this is not going on. I'm standing there, nothing, I can't see anything. That's where that frustration is coming from. Because everybody's frustrated. God is frustrated because it's like, I need you over here for purpose. I need you for calling. I got something so grand for you. You think your life is good now? If you just answer this call, I'm going to multiply your life times 10. And I'm so frustrated because I know the life I have for you. I know the enemy is trying to take you out. And I've done sent you 35,000 convictions. Right? So I'm trying to work with you here before I clip you up. Because when I clip you up, clipping up ain't cute. So I'm trying to really work with you here because I really don't want to clip you up. Because I've known you've been clipped up before and I know you don't take clipping up well. So I'm trying to really work with you here, sir, ma'am. So that's one part of the frustration. Again, the person is frustrated because they're really trying. Don't think people who deal with addictions aren't trying. They may just don't tell you that because you can't even have an open mind to understand what they're dealing with. You're just all judgmental versus loving on them and trying to be understanding. Yes, stay on their neck, but still have that room to still have an open mind that you struggle with your own demons. It may just not be meth, but it's sex. Somebody just got hit just now. I felt it. Right? So now you got that side of the frustration. Now you're frustrated because it's like, this ain't even my battle. But you answered the call. You answered the call. So it is your battle. Somewhat. So with all this different resistance going on, and you wonder why you're frustrated in the spiritual realm, because it's not all about you. In fact, it's not really about you. It is about you, but it's not about you. You're just a vessel because you answered the call. This thing ain't for the faint at heart. Let me just tell you, right? It's not for the faint at heart. And this is why you feel like, you have people, chosen ones, who always say things like, I just want a normal life. Right? I've never had a normal life. I've always been under attack. I've always been such and such. I've never had a peaceful, keep walking. Keep walking. You'll get there. Due season, honey. Due season. You're just in the thick of that thing. But the blessings that you receive in due season is going to be for all the hell that you endured. But you kept walking. You didn't give up. You're called. You answered. So you're standing. You're breaking generational cycles, generational curses. So I hope this helps you to understand that the reason why it's so heavy is because it's not about you. It is, but it's not. It's your girl, Kizzy Rock.